Today we will be building our very own roller coasters. Before we do that, let's go over some of the concepts that we'll be using today. To build our roller coasters, we will be taking advantage of something called the engineering design process. The engineering design process is a series of steps that engineers use to solve a problem. The first step is to ask what the problem is and to identify any constraints or limitations that we have on us as we're solving this problem. Today, our problem is that we'd like to design and build our very own roller coaster. Our constraints are that we only can use the materials that we have in our homes to build these roller coasters. If you'd like to challenge yourself even more, you can add some additional constraints, such as adding at least one loop to your roller coaster, at least one jump, or constraining the size that your roller coaster must be. Once we've identified the problem and its constraints, our next step is to research the problem so that we are well informed before beginning. In this case, it would be useful to learn a little bit more about how roller coasters work before we design and build our own. The primary mechanisms behind how roller coasters work are gravity, conservation of energy, and inertia. Gravity is the force which allows our roller coaster car to move down the track. Meanwhile, the conservation of energy, or the law that states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but merely changes from one form to the other, is what propels our roller coaster car down the track and around the loop-de-loops. The transformation of potential or stored energy into kinetic or moving energy is what propels our roller coaster car forward on the track. Potential energy is high at the peak of the hill as the car is not moving, while kinetic energy is low. As the car moves down the track, potential energy is converted to kinetic energy, meaning the kinetic energy is high and potential energy is low at the bottom of a hill. The higher the first initial peak of your roller coaster, the greater potential or stored energy you have. The car remains in motion due to the law of inertia, which states that an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by outside forces. In the case of roller coasters, we have to deal with a force called friction. We can think of friction as a force which prevents the movement of our car. There is friction between the wheels of our roller coaster car and the track, as well as from the air. The eventual force of friction will slow down our car, bringing it to a stop. Now that we know a little bit more about how roller coasters work, our next step is to imagine some possible solutions to our problem. In this case, it might be useful to look at some different roller coaster designs for inspiration. You may want to draw inspiration from real roller coasters, like the steel curtain at Kennywood, or look into designs that others have made using household materials. Once we've looked at some roller coaster designs, it's time for us to plan our own design. Here, I've created 2 potential roller coaster designs. When planning your designs, it's a good idea to think about what materials you'd like to use. I have a lot of cardboard and cardboard tubes, so that's what I'll be using to make my roller coaster today. You also may want to give some thought to where you put your supports and how large you'd like your roller coaster to be. Finally, you'll want to pick a plan to use to build your roller coaster. Once you've identified the design that you'd like to use, you'll want to create a prototype. A prototype is just a working model of our roller coaster. With a working prototype, we can then test it out to see what works and what needs some more improvement. We can then improve on our prototype through a process called iteration. Iteration means going through the steps of the engineering design process again and again until we're happy with the final design of our roller coaster. We may need to do more research, more testing, or even create a new design to create something that fits our standards. Now that we know a little bit more about this process, let's try our hand at building our own roller coaster. For this activity, you'll need some household materials to create your roller coaster. Today I'll be using cardboard tubes and cardboard, but feel free to use what you have lying around the house. You can use paper cups, paper plates, or even strips of paper. You'll also need some tape to hold everything together, a pair of scissors, and a marble or small ball to serve as our roller coaster car. Finally, feel free to take advantage of other household items like books or Lego bricks and use your creativity to make your roller coaster as simple or as elaborate as you'd like. Here are the materials I'll be using today. I'm using cardboard tubes as my roller coaster track, cardboard tubes and cardboard for my roller coaster supports, a marble for my roller coaster car, and a small Tupperware to catch my marble at the end of the run. I'll start by cutting my cardboard tubes in half to create the roller coaster track. Now that I've cut all my tubes, it's time to tape them together. I've selected this design, and I will use that to guide the building of my roller coaster. Remember that we'll want to test and redesign our prototype. Therefore, I'll just loosely tape these together for now so that I can readjust in the future if needed. Once you're finished with your prototype, it's time to test it out. Here's what my roller coaster ended up looking like. After testing, I see a few clear adjustments that I'll need to make. I'll go back to the redesign step and make these adjustments, then try again. Once I'm satisfied with my roller coaster design and it works the way I'd like it to, now I can add some decorations and any other flair to make my roller coaster stand out. What type of roller coaster will you design?